Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. We're so glad and thankful to have you here today. Welcome to the show. It's Tuesday, April 8th. Have you paid your taxes yet? Well, I'll tell you what, we won't call them taxes. We'll just call them tariffs. That way, we'll be gaslit by everybody on the right telling us that tariffs aren't taxes. So this coming April 15th, you'll pay your income tariffs. That's what we'll say. There you go. Why don't you guys, I tell you what, if you guys want to watch the show today, here on the Wake Up America show, I'm going to declare through executive order a tariff. If you want to watch the Wake Up America show today, then I declare a $5 tariff must be paid by everyone who watches the show today. Cecilia H., she paid her tariff, so she's allowed to stay. The wolf lover in me, she says, is really excited about this, but the Jurassic Park lover says we should probably not mess with that. Yeah. Scientists were so preoccupied with whether they could. They never thought about whether or not they should. Return of the Direwolf? Well, almost. Return of the almost Direwolf this morning. And it's a little bit of happy news and some fun news. More fun than watching a generation of economic illiterate Zoomers coming up telling us to eat the rich and that boomers must die and that the stock market is not the economy before turning about 24 hours later. And then when the stock market bounces like a dead cat, they get to say, oh, wow, look, actually the tariffs were working. Isn't it amazing how people justify things? If the stock market goes down, well, then we have to eat the rich. We have to work in the sock manufacturing factories, but not Panda Express. Does anybody notice that there's a whole lot of talk about the decency, the common workers, and how we need to restore the soul of this nation by restoring manufacturing here in the United States? And yet just 6 to 8 weeks ago, we were having a conversation on this show about how Zoomers didn't want to have to work at a Panda Express. Well, that's beneath them. Now, darning socks in a factory, that's the kind of work Americans are really looking forward to doing, right? Yes? Panda Express, no. And if you think I'm shitting you, if you're not following me on X, you really should. I mean, the economic literacy is on full display. You've got people out there, you've got right-wingers who will say on one hand, and I mean, I'm telling you, this is the conversation. They're saying, how dare these elites? They look down on factory labor. And then when I say, well, what about working at Panda Express? Somebody literally just tweeted this morning, that's not the same as providing slop to the masses. Now who's the economic? Now who's the elitist? What's wrong with people who want to work at Panda Express? I love it too, people trying to tell me that a tariff is not a tax. Bro, if you think that a tariff is a good idea, if you think that it's a good idea, you could even say, hey, it's better than an income tax. And there is a good argument to be made for something like that. But just admit that it is a tax. That's okay. You want to say that it's a tax. You prefer that kind of tax. That's fine. But don't gaslight me. Don't tell me that a tax. Don't piss on my leg and tell me that it's raining. It's a tax.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Exactly. Thank you, Norm. Nice to see Caleb Vanderfeltz, Floby Tenderson, Mr. Embry, Amy J.E., Cecilia H., Dad Bod Baboon, Drew Van Runkle, he's ready to fight. Jose MMA is here this morning. Don't mess with him. He knows MMA. In Jam 77, haven't seen you in a while, bud. What's up? Mr. Grizz Cheese, as well as Southcott. Good to see you, brother. Can you bless me with something, Tater Salad 68? Yes.
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise.
Oh, please. Nice to see you, Nathan. Thank you for that very patriotic American flag down there. Yes, I love America. I hate taxes. I'm a libertarian. Blow me. I just never going to be a fan of taxes. Jimmy, Joe, Patty, what's happening, guys? We're going to be talking about tariffs, of course. I'd love to avoid it. The Direwolf topic is here so that I don't have to sort of like, explode with rage over the back and forth and left and right and up and down and the hypocrisy from, every single angle. And it's just, it's so disgusting having to watch the left go out there and be like, oh, this is a terrible thing. This is so awful. It's like, shut up. You would be so thankful if the Democrats were doing it today. If these were Kamala Harris's tariffs, you know that the Democrats would be all over it saying, these are wonderful, they're beautiful, it's amazing. Yes, Queen Slay, she's bringing China to heel, right? It's like, shut up. From the left, I want nothing. But from the right, I'd like to have, the problem that I see here is this. And this is a problem with anyone, right? Left, right, center, libertarian, same thing, right? That no one is willing to look at evidence and be willing to change their mind if the evidence indicates what it is that they believe. So yesterday I had a conversation with someone, there's this young man who lives in Missouri, and he had contacted me about a week ago asking if I would give him a call, and we kind of had a back and forth. We never were able to hop on the phone because he wanted to, before he formed his opinions on tariffs, he wanted to have a conversation with me, and maybe because we couldn't talk on the phone, maybe that's why he took the statist approach when it came to these things. But I kept asking him when we were going back and forth on Twitter, I said, what kind of evidence is the type of evidence that you would find convincing in order to change your mind? So in other words, what is it that you find the most valuable? What is the most valuable kind of evidence that you would say, okay, I accept this evidence as valid, and are you willing to change your mind if that evidence is sufficient? If I could prove to you, for example, one of the questions was, about the loss of manufacturing jobs in the United States. I said, okay, well, if I can prove to you that manufacturing has actually increased in the United States since the 1970s, would that evidence be sufficient? Well, no, that evidence is not sufficient. Well, okay, well, what this sounds more like is someone who is really just looking for a way to justify what they already believe. Now, I would love to be wrong about the direction that the United States is taking economically. I would love to be wrong about a lot of things that when I call gloom and doom, when I say the things that I don't think that these things are going to work out well for us. I want the United States to succeed. I want the United States to win. I would love for the Trump administration to be able to negotiate what Elon Musk says is a zero tariff environment. The problem is that on one hand, you have one half of the White House saying that this is all art of the deal. It's meant to get better trade deals, in which case that would mean that we would have more free trade. Okay, completely valid argument. That's the side that I would be on if I were, playing a role in this. But then the other side of the argument says, well, no, we need to lay the tariffs because they would bring manufacturing back. It would be good for our economy. We would restore the soul of the nation. These two things are in conflict with one another, right? On one hand, you have some people who are taking the globalist side, and then you have some others who are taking the isolationist side. So these two things, this is oil and water, right? So the question that I would have is the goal to use the leverage that the United States has with our purchasing power to try and get better trade deals, in which case, for it, sounds good, nice, art of the deal, love it. Or is the goal, like I'm being told and gaslighted and beaten over the head, is the goal to restore the soul of the nation and to lay the tariff and to be an isolationist nation and to have Americans screwing in little screws in iPhones and darning socks but not somehow working in Panda Expresses, right? So which is it, right? At the end of the day, you're going to have to pick a lane. You can't have it both ways. You can't, when Vietnam announced that they would offer us 0% tariffs, just like Israel and many other countries are now coming and saying, yes, we'll offer you 0% tariffs. I think the European Union even did. I've got a bunch of clips. We're going to play some of these things this morning. But the question is, which is the strategy? Which is the path? Because if you don't lay the tariff, then you have more free trade. if you do lay the tariff, right, then of course you're suppressing other industries that have to rely on whichever industry it is that you're tariffing, and of course their prices go up. Anyways, it's a good question. I think people are really not focusing in on that enough, like these dualities of the Trump administration. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, though. You can send me a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Andy Opperman says, personal pain and suffering is the only way to change the mind of an ideologue, and even that isn't 100%. So true. Zed the Head says, critical thinking versus critical theory. Yes. Mr. Embry says he wants to see the evidence. Yes. Thank you. Exactly. I want to see the evidence, too. Listen, I'm willing to change my mind. If the protectionists are right, and they have never been proven right in history, but if this is the time, if these taxes actually produce the intended benefits that we're being told that they will bring to us, then I will eat my hat. Or what was it John McAfee said that he was going to eat? He was going to eat his you-know-what. L-Dubs says, the fact we don't know what the ultimate strategy is what is worrying. I really hope that they acknowledge going 0 for 0 is good enough. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Again, 573-319-1586 is the text line. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You guys notice the APDC Liberty Tour t-shirts here? Yes. It says that people are saying that we are frozen, but I still see that we're working here. Let's see. Give me a little wave. Let me know if you can see me. Yeah, it looks like I'm seeing us. I'm seeing us here. Let's see. I'm seeing us. Hold on. Live. Okay. Well, that's not a good look. Let's see what I can do here.
We thought if we could do something that could bring back the direwolf, also help wolf conservation and bring people from like sci-fi, fantasy, and kids more into science and into the conversation around conservation, we thought it was a cool idea, but we had no idea if we could pull it off.
Is there dead direwolves that were trapped in permafrost, or is
No, most of the direwolf skulls out there, there's thousands of them in La Brea tar pit. So if you go there, they have this beautiful wall, but because of heat and acidification, there isn't anything that's protected. Like there's nothing you can get from that.
The very first time I ever visited Los Angeles, it was all by myself, and the very first stop on my trip was to visit the... Sorry about that, guys. Hi, we're back. What's up, guys? Thanks, by the way, for helping to unlock the bonus content. We do have bonus content today. We've raised $15 towards the we've raised $15 towards the $75 bonus content goal, and are you guys actually here? Are we seeing it? Bumper, whatever. All right, let's We're getting all kinds of weird stuff this morning, aren't we? Huh. There, okay. So like, are we live, guys? Let's see. Hello. Check, mic check. How embarrassing.
But about 6 years ago, a group, including Beth Shapiro, our chief science officer, sequenced a tooth that was found in a cave, just a single tooth, right? And in that tooth, they actually found they actually got 0.15x or coverage of the genome. So they got about 15% of the genome. But that's not really enough. You need to get up to about 10x, meaning that you can read the entire genome about 10 different times so that even if there are gaps, you understand enough of the core kind of coding regions that you could bring back that animal. Or
is this done by AI?
It's done by AI and software, yeah. Mm-hmm. So we built, part of our business model is building technologies to solve these really complicated problems. They're much harder to solve than, just solving them for, existing species, open sourcing that for conservation for free, but then also taking those technologies that we can monetize for humans and spinning them out. So our first computational analysis company was called Form Bio, and we actually spun it out of the business.
So you have this tooth, you have 1.5.
Yeah, 0.5, so 15% of the genome.
Okay.
And so I went to Beth, who was only an advisor at the time, and said, could you resample the tooth? And she's like, it's like, half an inch long. She's like, it's destructive sampling. Like, it's going to ruin it. I was like, well, could we scour the other museums and see if it's even possible? So we lucked out, and that tooth's 13,000 years old. The skull itself is 73,000 years old, not exactly sure. But it was found in a riverbed. And it wasn't found in a riverbed at the mouth of a cave. So it wasn't found like in the permafrost, but it also wasn't found in like heat and acidification. So there's a bone.
We have the direwolf again, thanks to the heroic work of these people. Colossal biosciences. This is a canine species that went extinct more than 10,000 years ago, and it's been revived in a stunning act of so-called de-extinction. Reminds us a lot of the movie Jurassic Park. Now, the direwolf is this late Pleistocene celebrity, thanks to its role in the Game of Thrones series as a symbol of the Stark family. Stephanie, just having finished her very first go-through through Game of Thrones, she got to enjoy this yesterday as we watched the beautiful direwolves doing their howling, and apparently a little bit older than I expected. I thought maybe they had just been born, but they have actually been alive for a little bit. So they've gotten much bigger. So what they did was they actually got samples of the direwolf DNA from fossils, and then they edited the DNA of gray wolves to add the key characteristics of the extinct species. So this is a company out of Dallas. They then created and modified embryos, implanted them in surrogate dogs, and then raised 3 direwolves. Well, actually 2, and they're not full direwolves, they're near direwolves. And the 2 direwolves that are grown, these are Romulus and Remus. And for those who aren't aware, Romulus and Remus were supposed to be the 2 wolves that birthed the ancient Roman Empire, or I guess Roman Republic at the time. And then the female direwolf, which is still a pup, was named Khaleesi after the Game of Thrones character, apparently as a homage to George R.R. Martin, who was an investor in helping to bring back these dogs. So they are recognizably dire wolves, and it's interesting. They're white. They didn't expect this. A lot of artist renditions of dire wolves that existed before this were artists who were making them look like they were brown. So the scientists were actually surprised to learn that the direwolves came out white, and it makes sense. They are an Arctic predator, so they have white coats in order to protect them from predators, and so that they can also hunt their prey without being seen in the snow. So, and they are recognizably dire wolves. They are larger. They've got more powerful shoulders. They've got a wider head. They've got larger teeth and jaws. I can't play the Joe Rogan clips in full and just comment on them in their entirety. We have to break it up because of copyrights, of course.
which is insanely dense, and it doesn't change a lot from after you're born. It's a great DNA storage, better than teeth, better than anything. It's like in the inner ear kind of head area. And so we got permission from the museum to very carefully drill into the underside of the skull and remove the petrous bone to see if we could get DNA. And we got really lucky between resampling the first and the skull. We ended up getting about 13 to 14x coverage. So that's more than we needed to potentially bring back the direwolves.
And then what'd you do?
Well, and then we got a knock on the door and it was, no, so we took that DNA.
Can I ask you before we even start with this?
Yeah.
The aggressive reporters, is it you're playing God? How do you have the right to do this?
So it's been a journey. Okay, so the journey that we've had is when we started the business, we didn't have any scientists. Like, we just didn't, right? They're like, this is tech bros wanting to see cool animals, and they've only got $16 million of funding and they don't have any scientists. Ha ha. So that was phase one.
Right.
And then we're like, as an entrepreneur, my job is to hire much smarter people than me.
Do you smoke cigars?
I do not. Gary's got me on quite a kick. So
health kick?
Yeah. So I mean,
cigars aren't bad for you.
Well, I'm not saying they're bad for you. I'm just saying that
allegedly.
Yeah.
I don't care. That's the last of the things.
Right,
let's see the photos. Jamie, bust out some photos. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourself because this is truly fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That's the language.
Yeah. So this is so that's actually Romulus. We have two boys, Romulus and Remus, founders of Rome, and then we have Khaleesi, who's the new girl. So this is Romulus and Remus. So funny story about this. So Peter Jackson from Lord
of the Throne, the Iron Throne, the actual Iron Throne. Peter Jackson is also an investor in this project of Lord of the Rings fame. And look at them. Look, there they are. They're beautiful.
So at 3 months, how big are they?
3 months, they were north of 45 pounds.
Wow.
So
look at that face. God, they're so beautiful.
They just get like, as they've aged, they've just got more and more beautiful.
So let's go to the adults, because the adults have crazy characteristics.
Yeah, so
you were saying that you didn't even know that
we didn't know, right? And so we ended up getting a.
Is this a full grown one?
No, they're still 5 months old, so they're 80 pounds at 5 months. So wolves typically grow 12 to 14 months, so they're not full grown yet.
Wow! And how big is it already?
80 pounds, about 5.5 feet.
And the mane.
Yeah, and so a couple things about the wolves, Jamie, if you go back, yeah. So we didn't know this, right? We knew that they were a Pleistocene wolf. We knew that they existed and went extinct about 12,000 years ago, when a lot of megafauna went extinct, like during kind of that younger dryas kind of cooling period. They went extinct as well, right? And we know, because all we have is, we don't have frozen direwolves or frozen samples. We literally just know from skeletal remains that they were 20 to 25% larger. They were stockier. They probably weren't as fast based on kind of their body weight as a normal wolf would be. But we knew that they had thicker skulls, a larger cranium, and whatnot. And we assumed that and we did find this out in the genome, which is pretty cool, that they were white. Because there's like this misconception for a while that they were red, because some scientists wanted to make a paper and assume that they were red so they get their paper.
Doesn't it make sense for natural selection? I mean, they're an Arctic hunting animal.
Yeah, and they have this beautiful, we didn't know this, they have this beautiful like mane-like quality to them. And when they're babies, you saw a couple of pictures, their fur almost feels like polar bears. It's crazy.
Wow.
Is it
like polar bears and it's hollow, or is it not?
Yeah, it's not. It's like typical wolves, but it's incredibly thick. It grows in kind of these clumps. But then as they've grown in, they've started to get this kind of like mane to them, which is incredible.
The females as well?
Well, the female, she's only 6 weeks old, so it's too soon to tell. So if you keep going through a couple other photos, yeah, I mean they're just beautiful. And I mean, it's funny. Someone actually said they on our team was like, they almost look like Shetland pony wolves at some point, right?
Right. They're so stocky.
They're stocky. They're thicker. They are. I mean, they're
Let's hear your
absolutely
thoughts.
beautiful.
So good thing, bad thing, right? So now the question is, how will they be unleashed on society? Are we going to release these back into the let's release it in Los Angeles, or I'll tell you what, let's release them into Portland. What do you guys say? So the direwolf juveniles are apparently going to be monitored their entire lives. They're not going to be introduced into the wild more than likely. And then there's the big question that like the mammals that were its prey, like including woolly mammoths, are no longer around either. So now this doesn't mean, you know, the fact that these guys have done this, you know, that they don't deserve a lot of credit, even if there are some complications and some problems. Right. Though one philosopher actually came out and said that the modern day direwolves may have potential psychological and behavioral deficits. So there are people who say that we shouldn't do this. And I wonder what your thoughts are on that. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. No Camellia today. Now, don't be too disappointed. But we are going to have Brandon Pritchard this morning on the Wake Up America show at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. He's from Citizens Alliance to talk about some state senator that he has out there who's accused of doing dirty dalliances with underage people. It's a very strange phenomenon that we have going on in our society today, that we keep finding out so many of these elites, politicians, and rappers make sense. Diddy, like that's the kind of thing you expect those people to be doing. But our elected representatives, Brandon will join us this morning for his very first interview on the show at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. Stick around. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Were you exposed to hazardous materials while serving in the military and have an illness or condition as a result?
If so, you may be eligible for VA benefits and services.
Whether you need health care or want to file a disability compensation claim related to military exposures, VA is here to help.
Visit va.gov/military-exposures to learn more and apply today.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
And what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
If I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors, what would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
These MAGA extremists are trying to jam a reckless budget down the throats of the American people, take away health care from the American people, strip away veterans' benefits from the American people, and hurt nutritional assistance and literally take food out of the mouths of babies in America. Why? Because they want to pass massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors and puppet masters like Elon Musk.
They just passed the biggest tax increase in history on billionaires and all
this is Republican policy in America, and it's a complete and total.
No matter how stupid the Democrats might be, no matter how stupid Republicans might be, the Democrats are always far worse. Welcome to Wake Up America Show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. The Democrats now believe in merit.
Administration. We believe in merit as Democrats. We believe in merit. Merit should be based on what you know, not who you know. Administration.
Welcome to the Wake Up America show, guys. We host AP. What's up? Glad and thankful to have you here. Click the like button. We'd love to have you be a regular guest. The Wake Up America show is 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Sounds like we're having a little bit of trouble over on Rumble this morning, at least the Rumble platform. If you're watching us today, you're probably watching us over on X. Nice to see you guys. At least Rumble Studio is working. We're glad that that is functional. But it looks like the live chat over in Rumble is still working. So if you want to chat, you can do so at Rumble. Usually Rumble doesn't have issues. Rumble.com/AP4Liberty is the home of the Wake Up America show. But today, unfortunately, not streaming over at Rumble. We are streaming over on X. So if you're over on X, give us a like, and then how about a little bit of a repost? We'd love to have you be a regular guest on the show. Again, that show scheduled 5 days a week. The Wake Up America show, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We'd be glad to have you be a regular guest. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586.
People have been looking to the Democratic Party for a fighter, for a resistance leader, for an opposition party, and you gave them that. So thank you. You called this a moral...
Squeeze me, what did you just say? That Cory Booker? Nobody even knew that he was doing this. And I mean, I'm paying attention to politics like 24/7 pretty much. I need some new hobbies. Some more hobbies. I need a hobby that doesn't require me to like fly down to the Gulf or to the Caribbean to go into the water. But I just didn't even know it was going on until it was almost over. And if the Democrats come back in the next election, they're going to say that Cory Booker's filibuster was the reason for it. It was Cory Booker's heroic filibuster.
People have been looking to the Democratic Party for a fighter, for a resistance leader, for an opposition party, and you gave them that. So thank
There
you.
it is. So when the Democrats show up the next election and whip our butts, pretty sure they're going to say it was Cory Booker that turned it all around. But what do you guys think? Why do you guys think the Republicans are going to lose the next election? Maybe it's because of these two geniuses.
The candidate out there?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you run when you have the heart, the intelligence to make a difference, and obviously deep pockets?
Because I think I can really change healthcare and fix healthcare, and I'd rather be on that mission. And when I'm 95 years old and I'm on my deathbed and I'm thinking about life, I'd rather think about those minutes I spent with my kids and the time I was able to spend with them at this age, rather than running around on a campaign trail or even being in the White House.
I don't know. That means he's running. Mark Cuban. Yeah, maybe he's the great white hope that will bring the Democrats electoral victory. Not quite sure. Maybe it'll be Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You guys would like to support the Wake Up America show and help us to unlock the bonus content, visit forlibertyshop.com. Buy a box of Jeffersonian Java. Yes, Thomas Jefferson did lay tariffs. No! He also laid embargoes and starved the East Coast and had to back off and destroy the American economy. A tariff is a tax. An embargo is just a very, very, very high tariff. If you laid a tariff of 900%, it's an embargo. Right. So what is the difference? If you say that a tariff doesn't completely ban a product from going into a country, well, what if it's a 900% tariff? Then it is a complete and total prohibition. If you just want to raise a tariff and raise the taxes a little bit, you're prohibiting all of the poorer people on the end of on the economic spectrum from being able to purchase it. I don't know what's going to happen to the coffee, and specifically, I don't know what's going to happen with this brand. We were doing just well enough to keep the business going with the coffee business going with the prices that we have right now, which are quite high, to be quite fair. Although we are lower than many other premium brands. The Jeffersonian Java Founding Flavors coffee is the #1 selling product in the shop. It's really been a lifeline for Stephanie and I as we have tried to grow our merchant business and try and bring ourselves up from the depths of being a W-2, 2-week pay employee. We wanted to have a business of our own, have something, a legacy that we can give to our daughter. So we built this beautiful brand with Monticello surrounding it and Thomas Jefferson, and we found really good, high-quality coffee. We can't compete with Starbucks or with Dunkin' Donuts. We can't compete with many of the other coffee suppliers out there because we can't purchase in bulk and then distribute at scale that in the volume that would allow us to get the prices down and get it to mass scale. See, when you first start a business selling things, this is one of the curious idiosyncrasies of businesses typically. When you first start a business, typically, unless you come in with millions of dollars of investment, right, and a giant business plan and ready to rock, and then you can lay it all out. And that's typically people who are already seasoned investors or manufacturers. But if you're a small mom and pop shop, a small family business, what you typically have to do is you have to sell high-priced items to richer people before you can afford to sell lower priced items to poorer people. Now, I say rich and poor, but I'm really just using those as sort of opposite ends of the economic spectrum to help people understand. But for example, the Jeffersonian Java, I would compare it with any of the major brands that are out there in terms of quality, in terms of freshness, in terms of packaging, and our marketing is fantastic for this. But of course, we have many constraints on our ability to be able to deliver this product at a price that is competitive compared to most of the coffee that most people drink. So in order for us to build a business based around coffee, to get into the coffee business, we have to find a very superior premium brand and sell it to people who can afford to buy higher priced, higher quality coffee. Therefore, this is the richer, I say rich, end of the market. Now, I know many of you who watch the Wake Up America show that you guys are buyers of the coffee. You may say to yourself, "Oh, well, I'm not rich." Well, it's a little bit of you might be richer than you think, actually, or maybe you're just you've decided that you would like to be a part of our network, and you decide to purchase the For Liberty Shop coffee as a bit of a gift to the Wake Up America, to me and to Stephanie, and to support our family and our business. And we, of course, are very grateful for people who do that, who take, because, of course, poorer people have to pay a higher percentage of their goods and services. They have to pay a higher percentage of their income for the essential goods and services, for coffee, for eggs and milk, and for gasoline, and for the necessities. Richer people, of course, they have much more disposable income. So for them to buy a box of Jeffersonian Java, or this is a really good one, Franklin's Electric Elixir, for them, again, we're talking about the economics of a coffee business here. And of course, where does this coffee come from? Well, it's not Hawaiian coffee, right? It's not made in the United States, and Hawaii does not have the productive capabilities. You could raise all of the land in Hawaii and make Hawaii just a coffee plantation, get rid of all the people on it, and just raise coffee, and you still would not be able to meet the demand for coffee in the United States. So we have to import it. And what happens with a tariff is that the big importers, the Starbucks, the Dunkin' Donuts, the big guys, they can afford to absorb the cost of a tariff. They can afford to absorb that cost. But smaller mom and pop businesses, people like Stephanie and myself, we have to charge higher prices. We have to pass these costs on to the consumers because our margins are so razor thin, right? And as our profitability grows, like, we would love to get to a position where we're making bigger and bigger purchases. Maybe we can say, all right, now this month we're actually going to go out and we're going to buy 500 boxes of coffee and get our prices down. And then, or what are we going to do? Are we going to pass that savings on to you? Absolutely, because we think we're going to make up for it in volume, right? And these are the kinds of problems that people like me and Stephanie and others have to deal with, right? These are the complications that we have to deal with. So it's people like us that get hurt by the tariffs. And I don't think it's selfish to want to have a tax system that is low and fair to everyone. We shouldn't be using taxes to try and socially engineer the economy in the United States and say, oh, well, the factory worker's job is just more important than your job, Austin, because you're a person who shares his opinions for a living, and so your profession is not noble, right? Once we get into this concept of like, oh, your work is noble and your work is not noble, well, then it's just Marxist class warfare. It's just class warfare by another name. And there's nothing ignoble about importing coffee from around the world because, of course, without free trade, we would not be drinking coffee. You would not be eating avocados. You would not be drinking delicious coffee because only the rich people would be able to afford the coffee from the Hawaiian plantations. And we would be suffering for it. So buy a box of Founding Flavors coffee today in favor of free trade and help to unlock the bonus content by visiting 4libertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. You have to put your money where your mouth is if these are the things that you believe. If you don't, I get it. I understand. We definitely have a big disagreement when it comes to issues like these. On the right, but I'm sticking up for what I believe in and what I believe the evidence and history points to for what brings the most amount of prosperity to the most amount of people, and that is low to no taxes. I prefer no taxes.
This is new DNA for the Republican Party. That's why you hear Republicans and business guys who've basically been Republicans struggling with what to do, because the DNA of the party, for as long as any of us have been around, has been tariffs are bad, taxes should be low, free markets, et cetera, et
And
cetera.
like America's done pretty well.
But here's the flip side of that. Trump shows up with different advisors and different thoughts about asking questions. How well have we done if you're a working class, person, and you've seen your job shipped overseas, and you don't have the same kind of opportunities that perhaps you thought you were going to see? How well have certain segments of our society done? Is wealth inequality, because of some of these, trade ideas over the years that have just seen jobs go away from people who previously could get jobs and live a
I'm sorry, but wealth inequality is not due to the ability of people to import coffee or Nintendo Switches in the United States. And while I appreciate a lot of what Scott Jennings does here, I think that he probably knows that he's got to stick to the GOP script these days. He does a fine job here, but I think that of course, that's a mistake.
You thought you were going to see. How well have certain segments of our society done? Is wealth inequality, because of some of these, trade ideas over the years that have just seen jobs go away from people who previously could get jobs and live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle. So accepting this new DNA is going to be hard for some. You mentioned, Rand.
Do you know why the middle class has been shrinking, by the way? The middle class has been shrinking because many of them have been moving into the upper class. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not making this up, right? I don't just say things like that unless I actually found the data for it and the evidence for it. But again, who are you going to believe? The data, the evidence, the Austrian economists, the people who have been right over and over again about economics, who were right about the 2008 housing market crash, or are you going to believe some, pundit who's trying to get in with the Trump administration? I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Nothing but respect for Scott Jennings, but agree to disagree on that one. Send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. While I think he is making some critical errors, he's definitely much better than the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, and Peter Navarro, former Democrat Peter Navarro, who are making up all kinds of strange excuses for the trade policies that we have right now. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who appears to be saying that we're now going to have freer trade, which of course would mean fewer tariffs.
Larry, I can tell you that there are 50, 60, maybe almost 70 countries now who have approached us. So it's going to be a busy April, May, maybe into June. And Japan is a very important military ally. They're a very important economic ally. And the U.S. has a lot of history with them. So I would expect that Japan's going to get priority just because they came forward very quickly, but it's going to be very busy. And if President Trump, again, gave himself maximum negotiating leverage, and just when he achieved the maximum leverage, he's willing to start talking. Larry, I can tell you that there are...
Well, I mean, more free trade, that sounds like a good thing. Fewer tariffs, I'm for it. I want to win.
We stand ready to negotiate with the United States. Indeed, we have offered 0 for 0 tariffs for industrial goods, as we have successfully done with many other trading partners, because Europe is always ready for a good deal. So we keep it on the table. But we are also prepared to respond through countermeasures and defend our interests.
Okay, well, the European Union, they're ready to say, okay, we want 0 for 0 tariffs. That's a victory. Listen, I'm not going to get in my own way here. If the argument is that we want to use our leverage to get better trade deals, that means lower tariffs from other countries around the world, I have said from the very beginning, that's great. I support it. What I don't support is the economic illiteracy that says, no, we need the tariffs. We have to do it in order to bring manufacturing back to the United States. If you want to bring manufacturing to the United States, there's actually a really straightforward way to do it. Lower taxes and cut regulations. Hey, thank you. We've got a supporter out there who just decided to support free trade, put his money where his mouth is. He just went and bought 6 delicious boxes of Jeffersonian Java coffee this morning. Thank you very much, sir. You know who you are, and you have just unlocked the bonus content. We'll play it for you, and we'll be right back to talk more about economic winter is coming. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. All right, folks, it's time to check in on one of modern parenting's great existential crises. Whether giving your kid a smartphone is going to fry their brain, ruin their childhood, and lead them into a TikTok-fueled spiral of anxiety and doom. We've all heard it. Smartphones are destroying kids' lives. The headlines scream it. The experts warn us. And entire book tours are built around the idea that the moment your 12-year-old opens Snapchat, they're 2 clicks away from depression, bullying, and total personality collapse. But what if that's not the whole picture? A brand new study out of the University of South Florida just turned that narrative on its head. Researchers surveyed over 1,500 middle schoolers and found something shocking. Kids with smartphones reported fewer signs of depression, less anxiety, and even less bullying than kids without them. Wait, what? You mean the kids with 24/7 access to memes, video chats, and an endless stream of cat videos are actually doing better than the ones off the grid? Yep. On average, kids with phones were hanging out with friends nearly 3 days a week. Their phoneless counterparts? Barely 2. And 80% of the smartphone kids said they felt good about themselves, compared to just 69% of the digital hermits. Turns out, being able to text your friends and make weekend plans might actually be healthy. Now look, I'm not saying you should hand your 6-year-old an iPhone and say, good luck out there, champ. But this research suggests that the moral panic around smartphones might need to be, recalibrated. Because here's the thing, when every media outlet screams that tech is destroying kids, we forget something really important. Smartphones aren't evil, they're tools. And like any tool, they can build or break, depending on who's using them and how. But instead of focusing on digital literacy or helping kids make smart decisions, what do we get? Calls to ban phones from schools, regulate screen time by law, or blame every teen mood swing on Instagram. As if the 13-year-old me, awkward haircut, bad skin, and 0 coordination, wasn't already plenty anxious before smartphones ever existed. Let's be honest, there's a long tradition in this country of blaming the new thing for ruining the youth. It used to be comic books, then Elvis, then video games. Now it's smartphones. Next decade, it'll probably be AI-powered holograms of George Washington doing Fortnite dances. But this study reminds us, kids aren't just passive victims. They're adaptable, they're social, and sometimes a phone isn't an isolating screen. It's a lifeline. It's how they coordinate real-world hangouts, message friends, call home when they're stuck, or yes,
even find some sense of belonging. Now, is this one study definitive? Of course not. There's other research, like Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation, that paints a much darker picture, and we should take that seriously. But the lesson here isn't phones good or phones bad. It's stop freaking out and start thinking critically. Maybe instead of trying to helicopter parent every second of screen time, we could raise kids with some responsibility. Teach them how to use tech well and trust them just a little. Crazy, I know. And let's not forget, when there's a panic, there's usually someone in the background ready to write a rule, pass a law, or pitch a new taxpayer-funded program to save us from ourselves. Panic is profitable, especially when the solution just happens to involve more regulation. So before we go banning devices or proposing federal screen time quotas, maybe we let parents parent, kids learn, and researchers do more of what they just did. Actually ask the kids how they're doing, instead of assuming they're all one push notification away from existential despair. So yeah, maybe the real message here is this. Don't take the phone, take the fear, and put that on silent. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
It says to the Chinese, enough already. It says to the Chinese that their unfair trade policies have got to end. It says to the Chinese, this is a shot across your bow. Reform, because if you don't, there are going to be dramatic consequences throughout the world, in our country, and in your country as well. The bottom line is very simple, Mr. President. The Chinese have enjoyed a huge trade surplus with the United States.
Did he just say huge? Wait. Go back. Did he just say huge?
The world, in our country, and in your country as well. The bottom line is very simple, Mr. President. The Chinese have enjoyed a huge trade surplus.
He said huge. Morning, pineapples. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Oh, Chuck Schumer, when will you learn? We're glad and thankful to have you here. Looks like the Rumble feed is down, but we're still over on X, baby. Wave at me if you can see me, right? Signs of life. Mind check. So glad to have you guys here. Have you guys clicked the like button yet? You can repost it because over on X, you repost. We used to retweet, but now we repost. I like to retweet better, but repost the stream on people's feeds, help to spread the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty. Economic freedom, yeah. Democrats have never quite understood that concept either. They're all hypocrites.
Folks, we have mortgaged our foreign policy. Everyone's out there going, oh my God, how in God's name? You know, the Chinese came here and the president didn't get anything. Guess what? They own us. Folks, we have mortgaged our foreign policy. Everyone's out there going, oh my God, how in God's name? You know, the Chinese came here. The president.
Oh man, well, Democrats. This is why you never listen to them. You never listen to the Democrats. Now, to Trump's credit, he has been consistent for quite some time.
I couldn't believe this last auto deal as an example. Here we are, we're sitting there.
1995.
It's restricted in Japan. Everything's restricted. We're sitting, they can't come in. And all of a sudden, this country falls. We do the old fold-out. I've never seen it.
That isn't the way the press reported it. Well, the press reported it that we had it.
Roger Ailes, my former boss there, president of Fox News.
Deal.
And then all of a sudden it turned out that the deal turned out that it was not a good deal for us. And we had all the cards. I mean, it's not like we didn't have the cards. It's like, keep your cars out of here until you open up. That's all. Keep your cars out. And then the first hour was like, oh, we made this wonderful deal. After about 15 seconds after that, people realized we got duped. I just don't understand it.
What's wrong with us? I mean, I guess they said, well, this would hurt American car dealers.
You know, what's wrong with us? I don't know. They're afraid politically to make a little bit of a tough stand. That wasn't even a tough one. That was a no-brainer. You would have had the Japanese cars out for 19 and a half seconds, and you would have won every single point. It's the most incredible failure in negotiation that I've seen.
See, what's interesting here is that Trump seems to be advocating for free trade in the sense that he wants them to lower their tariffs. Okay, good. That's great. Again, completely separate argument from the tariffs bringing manufacturing jobs back if they're actually laid. So if they're not laid, then we get a better deal. Okay, good, right? Again, which is it? Trump seems to understand what it is, but I think many of his supporters don't understand the art of the deal here.
But it happens all the time. I just don't understand it. So I would take a much harder stand. I'd take a much more difficult stand, I would say. Make a couple of enemies. I think I'd make a lot of friends ultimately.
If the United States government took a firmer stand with foreign countries, would we be better off, or are we so much now a part of the nation of the community of nations that we can't really afford to offend anybody?
I think we'd be better off, and I think we'd be far more respected. I think the Japanese would respect us far more than they do. I don't think they have any respect for us, and they shouldn't have any respect for us because We are idiots when it comes to what's happening. I mean, look at dealing with Japan. I mean, just take a look at what's going on. I mean, they make hundreds of billions of dollars a year, and we lose money in deficits, and nothing happens. And they say, no, the Japanese are learning, and they're starting to open up. In the meantime, every second goes by, we're losing. I just think that people would have far greater respect for this country if we took a much tougher stand. It's really quite pathetic.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, not a lot to disagree with there, because what he wants ultimately are fewer tariffs. He seems to be arguing there that they are a tool to get lower tariffs. Again, I feel like I have to beat people over the head over this, because at the end of the day, the desire is for lower taxes.
President, a very simple thing. We will eliminate the trade deficit with the United States. We intend to do it very quickly. We think it's the right thing to do. And we're going to also eliminate trade barriers, a variety of trade barriers.
Okay. I think the trade deficit thing is an IQ test, because we all have trade deficits, right? I have never sold anything to my local Hy-Vee, but I have a 100% trade deficit with Hy-Vee, because I have never sold them a single good or service. I've only given them money and pieces of paper, and they have given me fruits and vegetables and lots of things that make me fat.
Put up unnecessarily, and I think Israel can serve as a model for many countries who ought to do the same. I recognize the position of the United States. It says, we're allowing other countries to put tariffs on us, but we don't put tariffs on them. And I'm a free trade champion, and free trade has to be fair trade. And I think that's basically the position that you have put forward, Mr.
No taxes have to be high taxes. Free trade has to be fair trade. War is peace, ignorance is strength, and freedom is slavery.
We are going to eliminate the tariffs, and rapidly. I had the opportunity to speak to Secretary Lutnick yesterday. We talked about how we could effect this quickly, and I hope to bring a solution very quickly. We're not talking about intentions. We're not talking about just words. We're talking about results. And those results are going to come.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like he's making concessions.
I can tell you that I said to the president a very simple thing. We will eliminate the trade deficit with the United States.
How are we going to eliminate the trade deficit? So we'll send you more things than you send us.
I mean, come on. They got the House and the Senate to pass the tax bill. Get to it. Make the negotiations in a week and get the vote. And as soon as we get that vote, by the way, and as soon as it's passed and Donald Trump signs it, Larry, I don't know about you, I think you're going to see a big boom in the stock market. People are going to capitalize those tax cuts into higher stock values. So do it now. I mean, come on. They got the House and the Senate to pass the tax.
Yeah, I guess. All right. Well, hang tough, guys.
We absolutely have had a couple people anxious about the stock market. But again, our goal is that we're going to sell millions more dollars, so we have to hire many more people. If we do that, we're going to hire them at very good jobs, with very good pay, wonderful benefits with the 401k match. True, there's some companies that have been buying T-shirts from Vietnam and China, and they're going to have to pay a couple more bucks for a T-shirt. And then the American consumer is going to have to pay more for a T-shirt. That's obviously not pleasant for those American consumers. But I think there's going to be an overwhelming surge of hiring in America as things level out, as American factories ramp up and people have to hire talent, buy machines. We've invested money in buying new machines because we're so enthusiastic, so optimistic about the future. That's going to start happening throughout the nation, and people are going to be leaning into the future. This is a very exciting time for the American manufacturing worker. We're going to be able to pull people from poverty into the middle class that used to not have an avenue. They had no shot at getting into the middle class. We're going to be able to offer them a shot.
We absolutely have had a couple U.S.-based steel manufacturer. They're the CEO of Marlin Steel. When you rob Peter to pay Paul, you can always count on the support of Paul. What do you guys think? Don't forget to if you are going to be joining us this coming month, May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in Washington, D.C. Upgrade your merch package to get one of our AP DC Liberty Tour t-shirts, as well as a box of either coffee or tea of your choosing, as well as several other gifts from the For Liberty shop that will be available to you. If you're going to be joining us May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in Washington, D.C. for the AP DC Liberty Tour, I've got my awesome shirt on right now. So tell me if you guys can see the back. Hold on real quick. A little Thomas Jefferson for you there. Dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. And it's got the awesome, right there, forlibertyshop.com right there on the side. You guys, we're all going to be wearing these together when we're in Washington, D.C. May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I hope you guys are going to be joining us. If you guys are interested, we still do have some tickets available, although there are very few. We're going to have a pretty big group of people there joining us in D.C. If you'd like to read more about the AP DC Liberty Tour or grab a tour shirt, they are available for sale at the shop. If you go to forlibertyshop.com, you can see our Summer of Freedom collection. Man, people love the Gulf of America Shark Beach Towel. That's definitely been my biggest hit product recently in the Summer of Freedom collection. But if you scroll down on the very front page, you can see all the information about the AP DC Liberty Tour, May 1st through the 3rd, 2025. Come and join me, Stephanie, Hazel, Ryan Cartoonin, James Taylor, Amy J. Ease, and so many others of our friends. My brother Justin will be there for the AP DC Liberty Tour. You can get a base package there. If you're a monthly sub to the channel, or if you support the Wake Up America show in any kind of like a monthly capacity, you get a 20% discount. The Liberty Tour package, the merch package, includes t-shirts, although we won't be able to guarantee them after, I believe it looks like, the 15th. So you've got another week if you are going to go on the tour with us to guarantee delivery of your t-shirt. If not, if you want to buy the merch package, you still can. It's just that it won't come with a shirt you can wear on the tour. You'll get it later. So not quite as fun. Much more fun. We're all going to go to Mount Vernon on Revolutionary War weekend. We're going to go to the U.S. History Museum. We've got a Capitol tour going on. It's going to be an absolute blast. Join us in Washington, D.C., May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd for the AP DC Liberty Tour. Check out our awesome shirts you can get, again, at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4, libertyshop.com. And again, if you do want the AP DC Liberty Tour shirt, even if you're not going to go with us, they are available for sale at the shop. All right, the bonus content. We've got Brandon Pritchard joining us here from Citizens Alliance to talk about a state senator in his state who is accused of dalliances with the devil. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
All right, folks, it's time to check in on one of modern parenting's great existential crises. Whether giving your kid a smartphone is going to fry their brain, ruin their childhood, and lead them into a TikTok-fueled spiral of anxiety and doom. We've all heard it. Smartphones are destroying kids' lives. The headlines scream it. The experts warn us. And entire book tours are built around the idea that the moment your 12-year-old opens Snapchat, they're 2 clicks away from depression, bullying, and total personality collapse. But what if that's not the whole picture? A brand new study out of the University of South Florida just turned that narrative on its head. Researchers surveyed over 1,500 middle schoolers and found something shocking. Kids with smartphones reported fewer signs of depression, less anxiety, and even less bullying than kids without them. Wait, what? You mean the kids with 24/7 access to memes, video chats, and an endless stream of cat videos are actually doing better than the ones off the grid? Yep. On average, kids with phones were hanging out with friends nearly 3 days a week. Their phoneless counterparts, barely 2. And 80% of the smartphone kids said they felt good about themselves, compared to just 69% of the digital hermits. Turns out, being able to text your friends and make weekend plans might actually be healthy. Now look, I'm not saying you should hand your 6-year-old an iPhone and say, "Good luck out there, champ." But this research suggests that the moral panic around smartphones might need to be, recalibrated. Because here's the thing, when every media outlet screams that tech is destroying kids, we forget something really important. Smartphones aren't evil, they're tools. And like any tool, they can build or break, depending on who's using them and how. But instead of focusing on digital literacy or helping kids make smart decisions, what do we get? Calls to ban phones from schools, regulate screen time by law, or blame every teen mood swing on Instagram. As if the 13-year-old me, awkward haircut, bad skin, and zero coordination, wasn't already plenty anxious before smartphones ever existed. Let's be honest, there's a long tradition in this country of blaming the new thing for ruining the youth. It used to be comic books, then Elvis, then video games, now it's smartphones. Next decade, it'll probably be AI-powered holograms of George Washington doing Fortnite dances. But this study reminds us, kids aren't just passive victims. They're adaptable, they're social, and sometimes a phone isn't an isolating screen. It's a lifeline. It's how they coordinate real-world hangouts, message friends, call home when they're stuck, or yes, even find some sense of belonging. Now, is this one study definitive? Of course not. There's other research, like Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation, that paints a much darker picture, and we should take that seriously. But the lesson here isn't phones good or phones bad. It's stop freaking out and start thinking critically. Maybe instead of trying to helicopter parent every second of screen time, we could raise kids with some responsibility. Teach them how to use tech well and trust them just a little. Crazy, I know. And let's not forget, when there's a panic, there's usually someone in the background ready to write a rule, pass a law, or pitch a new taxpayer-funded program to save us from ourselves. Panic is profitable, especially when the solution just happens to involve more regulation. So before we go banning devices or proposing federal screen time quotas, maybe we let parents parent, kids learn, and researchers do more of what they just did. Actually ask the kids how they're doing, instead of assuming they're all one push notification away from existential despair. So yeah, maybe the real message here is this. Don't take the phone, take the fear, and put that on silent.
Values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been. any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything. And what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation. Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Check in on one of modern parenting's great existential crises. Whether giving your kid a smartphone is going to fry their brain, ruin their childhood, and lead them into a TikTok-fueled spiral of anxiety and doom. We've all heard it. Smartphones are destroying kids' lives. The headlines scream it. The experts warn us. And entire book tours are built around the idea that the moment your 12-year-old opens Snapchat, they're 2 clicks away from depression, bullying, and total personality collapse. But what if that's not the whole picture? A brand new study out of the University of South Florida just turned that narrative on its head. Researchers surveyed over 1,500 middle schoolers and found something shocking. Kids with smartphones reported fewer signs of depression, less anxiety, and even less bullying than kids without them. Wait, what? You mean the kids with 24/7 access to memes, video chats, and an endless stream of cat videos are actually doing better than the ones off the grid? Yep. On average, kids with phones were hanging out with friends nearly 3 days a week. Their phoneless counterparts? Barely 2. And 80% of the smartphone kids said they felt good about themselves, compared to just 69% of the digital hermits. Turns out, being able to text your friends and make weekend plans might actually be healthy. Now look, I'm not saying you should hand your 6-year-old an iPhone and say, "Good luck out there, champ." But this research suggests that the moral panic around smartphones might need to be, recalibrated. Because here's the thing, when every media outlet screams that tech is destroying kids, we forget something really important. Smartphones aren't evil, they're tools. And like any tool, they can build or break, depending on who's using them and how. But instead of focusing on digital literacy or helping kids make smart decisions, what do we get? Calls to ban phones from schools, regulate screen time by law, or blame every teen mood swing on Instagram. As if the 13-year-old me, awkward haircut, bad skin, and zero coordination, wasn't already plenty anxious before smartphones ever existed. Let's be honest, there's a long tradition in this country of blaming the new thing for ruining the youth. It used to be comic books, then Elvis, then video games, now it's smartphones. Next decade, it'll probably be AI-powered holograms of George Washington doing Fortnite dances. But this study reminds us, kids aren't just passive victims. They're adaptable, they're social, and sometimes a phone isn't an isolating screen. It's a lifeline. It's how they coordinate real-world hangouts, message friends, call home when they're stuck, or yes, even find some...
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. Thanks for being patient, everybody. We're glad and thankful to have you here on the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. They call me AP, at AP for Liberty. Most people are watching us this morning, not on Rumble. I guess Rumble was having some problems. So we're all live over on x.com/AP for Liberty. So if you're listening to us somewhere in the ether and you're wondering where everybody's hanging out, it's over on X this morning. The Wake Up America show is a 5-day live show, 5 days a week, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Make us a part of your morning schedule. It's a great way to stay up to date on what's happening in the news, have a little bit of fun, have a little bit of funny. You'll be more well-informed when you're hanging out around the water cooler. You're going to be the coolest cat there because you're going to know what's up, and they'll say, "Oh, where did you hear that? I haven't seen that on Fox News yet." Well, that's because you heard it here first, and then all the major networks will carry it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days later. As a matter of fact, a lot of the people who come and join us as guests here on the Wake Up America show go on to have incredible careers. My next guest, I'm pretty sure, is going to be right in that vein. His name's Brandon Pritchard. He's the executive director of Citizens Alliance of North Dakota, a position he held since founding the organization in 2023. He's a proud Christian and a conservative that believes holding elected officials accountable is central to advancing the mission of freedom in North Dakota. Good morning, Brandon. Everybody say hello. Good morning, Brandon. How you doing, sir?
Austin, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here as well. Brandon, you brought this story to my attention, and it's involving one of the more difficult topics that the United States has been dealing with in the background of Jeffrey Epstein and still trying to get a copy of the Jeffrey Epstein files. You have this story out of North Dakota about a senator by the name of Ray Holmberg. He was the longest serving senator in North Dakota history, just sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. Why?
Well, yeah, I mean, thanks for letting me speak to this. It's a terrible circumstance. Ray Holmberg, 45 years in the North Dakota Senate. really the most powerful person in Bismarck, in our state capital in North Dakota, for the better portion of a half century, sentenced to prison because he used state taxpayer dollars to go and exploit children abroad. He also did exploit children while he was in North Dakota. So this is an instance of legendary corruption. I mean, this is a case of the most powerful person using his influence and power to go abuse children in North Dakota, in our region, and then abroad. While he was doing all this, he was flamboyant about it. I mean, he was telling other lawmakers, lobbyists, people around the Capitol that he was doing this stuff in no uncertain terms, by the way. And he got away with it for decades. And he was finally brought to justice this last week, sentenced to 10 years in prison. I think it's still too light. I think it should have been harsher than 10 years. But he at least was sentenced to serve time in federal prison and will probably spend, I mean, he's 81 years old, so probably the rest of his life in prison.
So you just said that he was telling people he was doing this? What do you mean?
Well, if you read the sentencing guidelines, they were able to uncover some of his emails, some of his, they were able to interview lobbyists and different people. One of the things that he said is, what happens in Prague stays in Prague. That's, of course, referring to Prague, Czech Republic, where he would go and abuse children. There's emails where he was going back and forth with lobbyists saying, this is like being in the Garden of Eden. I'll stay in office until I get caught with a young boy in my hotel room, and just weird stuff, man. It's just disgusting. And he was doing this all on taxpayer dime, and was able to get away with it because of his power position as chair of appropriations in the Senate in North Dakota.
Now, it's one thing for him to commit these crimes, but you say that you allege a conspiracy because you talk about the establishment class acting in concert to hide his actions for years. Can you speak to that?
Well, 100%. I mean, one of the things that we don't know is how many people were involved. It's kind of and I work closely in Bismarck politics. There's a lot of chatter as to who's who was involved in this and who knew and who didn't say anything. But what we do know is that the former Attorney General of North Dakota, the longest serving Attorney General in our state, Wayne Stenjum, actually received calls, texts, messages from Ray Holmberg while this whole process was going on of investigating him after his house was raided, for instance, contacted the Attorney General, his close friend Wayne Stenjum. He deleted those messages, deleted those texts, hid interactions between him and Ray Holmberg, which is a clear violation of federal law. That's obstruction to justice. And by the way, a lot of people have speculated how closely Holmberg and Stenjum were. Right after Holmberg reached out to Wayne Stenjum ends up dead. We don't know the circumstances around it. He just dies in his house one evening. By the way, he dies in the hospital formally, so an autopsy was never done, by the way. We don't know what he died of. There's a lot of speculation about that. So this whole story just unfolds in a crazy timeline. And I just want the people at home to know that this type of stuff is probably going on in a lot of states. If it's happening in North Dakota, it's probably happening in your backyard too.
Now, Brandon, you run the daily operations of Citizens Alliance of North Dakota, and your job there is vetting legislation and trying to get more lawmakers to sign the pledge. What is the pledge?
Yeah, the pledge is a 12-point. It's 12 principles that we ask all legislators to sign on to. If you are any person that puts your hand on the Bible and raises your hand and takes an oath in North Dakota, you ought to be able to support it. It's things like right to life, things like protection of due process rights, property rights. I mean, these are really simple tenets that you should be able to agree to, especially if you're a Republican. So we ask lawmakers to make that pledge. If they vote in accordance with that pledge, if they adhere to it, we praise them. If they violate the pledge, we go out and we try and find a replacement for them. We put some pain on those lawmakers for voting against the North Dakota and the U.S. Constitution.
So then what do you think? What are next steps here? I mean, you've alleged a conspiracy to some degree. I mean, do you have allies out there or anyone who's working on this? Tell us a little bit about, what you're doing to move forward on this issue, because it's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the sentencing guideline, which really woke people up, I think everybody knew that there was something that was going to be released, a bombshell, when people really read the full report. Yeah, people wanted to do something, but we're in the middle of session in North Dakota. We meet once every 2 years. And unfortunately, we're well past the period of time to introduce a bill without going through the delayed process. Now, there was one bill that was introduced by a group of young Republicans that I certainly support. My organization is supportive of that piece of legislation to make legislators mandated reporters. That would have made them have to report the things that Holmberg was saying flamboyantly in the Capitol. That's one piece of the solution. But the vision is that we're going to have to come back in 2 years from now, and we're going to have a robust answer to make sure that this type of stuff never happens again, the type of stuff that Holmberg was doing to children, and the corruption and the deceit and hiding this type of stuff. That can never happen in North Dakota again.
Are there any other initiatives that the Citizens Alliance of North Dakota is working on?
Oh, I mean, we're working on all kinds of stuff. That's just the topical piece of it, right? I mean, the innocence of children is a piece of our pledge, and we work, diligently with lawmakers to make sure that children are protected. But we're working on all kinds of things. We're working on property rights is the big thing in North Dakota. You might know of carbon sequestration. They're trying to shut down oil and coal, and by they I mean the green agenda. The Democrats in D.C. are trying to shut down our coal and oil. A lot of Republicans have bought into this idea that CO2 sequestration is the way around it. That's just not true. It's another cronyist boondoggle. And so we're doing everything we can to protect property rights and to actually have a vision, a grand strategy to make sure our natural resources and the free market wins out. So that's a big thing that we're working on. Pro-life, pro-Second Amendment legislation, of course, is stuff that we work on. Health freedom legislation is still coming down the pipe, so we'll see if that can get over the finish line this session. But those are just the things that we work on.
What are some of the biggest challenges that people like yourself, advocates for limited government face, would you say, in trying to get your agenda across in North Dakota specifically?
In North Dakota specifically, the big problem that we have is that we have a lot of money. North Dakota has done really, really well in terms of oil production, and that, the oil tax money that's come from the production has allowed us to have more money than we ever have in our state. And so when money is available, good conservatives typically say, let's give it back to the people. Let's invest in North Dakota. Let's invest in homeowners. But the legislators in Bismarck have a completely different agenda. They want to bring in companies. They want to, do certain things that actually, in my view, hurt the Republican state of North Dakota, right? It actually makes our state more liberal. And by the way, violates free markets and the values that we all hold as conservatives. So having a lot of money is it's a weird problem. A lot of states don't have that problem, but we certainly do.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you think that our listeners should know, Brandon, before we let you go today?
Well, I want to say this, cand.win, that's CAND.WIN. That's our website for Citizens Alliance of North Dakota. You can reach out to me, Brandon Pritchard. Love to, if you ever want to get help in North Dakota, we'd love to put you to work. If you'd like to throw some money towards us too, that'd be fantastic. We're working to make North Dakota a liberty state, and every little bit helps.
Make liberty great again in North Dakota. That's what Brandon Pritchard works on. He's the executive director of the Citizens Alliance of North Dakota and a fellow patriot. Thank you very much for your time, Brandon, and for getting up so early and joining our listeners today on the show. We'll hope to have you back again sometime real soon.
Thanks so much, Austin. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Buried deep inside this mine in western Pennsylvania is a little-known government office that handles a critical mission for the federal workforce, now set to be overhauled by the Department of Government Efficiency.
From the mine entrance, which they call the portal, we took some golf carts a few hundred feet down into the mine. You can feel the air change when you get inside, and you can see this is all just roughly cut out of the limestone. This was once a limestone mine. And down here, this is where we find the OPM office, where a few hundred federal employees process all retirement paperwork for the entire federal government.
It's an analog operation, all done on paper. It can take months for the Office of Personnel Management to process a case, potentially delaying retiree benefits.
The facility has literally miles of files, some 26,000 filing cabinets filled with retirement paperwork, some of them stacked 10 high.
Matt McIsaac runs the day-to-day operations inside.
When you look out over all of this, what do you see? I see people.
I see careers. I see service.
Now, what do you mean a mine?
When Elon Musk brought up the mine in an Oval Office appearance back in February as a target ripe for reform, McIsaac agreed.
He's right. We have to improve the way that we do things for federal employees and for the American public.
There's a literal mine. Elon Musk, save us. I love this post. He says, carrying paperwork into a mine is not a good use of people's time. What do you guys think? Carrying paperwork into a mine, is that a good idea? I think not. If you guys haven't already, don't forget to visit the For Liberty Shop merch shop and get yourself a box of our delicious Jeffersonian Java. One of our friends of the show this morning decided to buy 6 boxes over there in favor of free trade. So if you believe in economic freedom and personal liberty, support the Wake Up America show by visiting forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. We'd be glad to have you support the Wake Up America show. Of course, you could click the like button and repost us. I know people aren't able to watch us typically, or they're not able to watch us on Rumble this morning, but they are able to watch us over on X. So if you're over on x.com this morning, please do visit the grift shop. It's just a joke. There's no grifting. You get what you pay for. But it is time for us to leave. And we're going to leave a little bit early today, and I hope you guys won't be upset. We did have a bunch of technical issues and things that I've got to fix. We got a little meeting as well this morning that I got to run to. But thank you very much for supporting the show, even with the technical difficulties today. Definitely want to see you back here again tomorrow. Wednesdays are a great day when Judge Andrew Napolitano joins us live on the Wake Up America show for his big brain time, Wednesdays at 8 a.m. Central Time. So make sure you come back again here tomorrow. Thank you to everyone for unlocking the bonus content on the show today. You'll get to watch that again one more time before we go. Exit through the grift shop at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. We'll see you guys again right back here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Time to check in on one of modern parenting's great existential crises. Whether giving your kid a smartphone is going to fry their brain, ruin their childhood, and lead them into a TikTok-fueled spiral of anxiety and doom. We've all heard it. Smartphones are destroying kids' lives. The headlines scream it. The experts warn us. And entire book tours are built around the idea that the moment your 12-year-old opens Snapchat, they're 2 clicks away from depression, bullying, and total personality collapse. But what if that's not the whole picture? A brand new study out of the University of South Florida just turned that narrative on its head. Researchers surveyed over 1,500 middle schoolers and found something shocking. Kids with smartphones reported fewer signs of depression, less anxiety, and even less bullying than kids without them. Wait, what? You mean the kids with 24/7 access to memes, video chats, and an endless stream of cat videos are actually doing better than the ones off the grid? Yep. On average, kids with phones were hanging out with friends nearly 3 days a week. Their phoneless counterparts? Barely 2. And 80% of the smartphone kids said they felt good about themselves, compared to just 69% of the digital hermits. Turns out, being able to text your friends and make weekend plans might actually be healthy. Now look, I'm not saying you should hand your 6-year-old an iPhone and say, "Good luck out there, champ." But this research suggests that the moral panic around smartphones might need to be, recalibrated. Because here's the thing, when every media outlet screams that tech is destroying kids, we forget something really important. Smartphones aren't evil, they're tools. And like any tool, they can build or break, depending on who's using them and how. But instead of focusing on digital literacy or helping kids make smart decisions, what do we get? Calls to ban phones from schools, regulate screen time by law, or blame every teen mood swing on Instagram. As if the 13-year-old me, awkward haircut, bad skin, and zero coordination, wasn't already plenty anxious before smartphones ever existed. Let's be honest, there's a long tradition in this country of blaming the new thing for ruining the youth. It used to be comic books, then Elvis, then video games, now it's smartphones. Next decade, it'll probably be AI-powered holograms of George Washington doing Fortnite dances. But this study reminds us, kids aren't just passive victims. They're adaptable, they're social, and sometimes a phone isn't an isolating screen. It's a lifeline. It's how they coordinate real-world hangouts, message friends, call home when they're stuck, or yes, even find some sense of belonging. Now, is this one study definitive? Of course not. There's other research, like Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation, that paints a much darker picture, and we should take that seriously. But the lesson here isn't phones good or phones bad. It's stop freaking out and start thinking critically. Maybe instead of trying to helicopter parent every second of screen time, we could raise kids with some responsibility. Teach them how to use tech well and trust them just a little. Crazy, I know. And let's not forget, when there's a panic, there's usually someone in the background ready to write a rule, pass a law, or pitch a new taxpayer-funded program to save us from ourselves. Panic is profitable, especially when the solution just happens to involve more regulation. So before we go banning devices or proposing federal screen time quotas, maybe we let parents parent, kids learn, and researchers do more of what they just did. Actually ask the kids how they're doing, instead of assuming they're all one push notification away from existential despair. So yeah, maybe the real message here is this. Don't take the phone, take the fear, and put that on silent.